What do most people not realize is newer than they actually think? The now commonly accepted theory that a large meteor caused, or was a major cause of, the extinction of the dinosaurs. When you watch Fantasia, 1940, and see the Rite of Spring sequence, wherein you witness the extinction of the dinosaurs, you see that it's portrayed as a great drought which was followed by a series of massive earthquakes. That's because at that time, this was the most accepted idea of what caused the mass extinction. The theory of the dinosaurs being killed off by a meteor strike, or the effects of said strike on the planet, rather, is called the Alvarez theory and was first proposed by Luis and Walter Alvarez in the year 1980. I'm 32 and I can remember being taught in elementary school that the meteor-asteroid theory was just one of many accepted theories about how the dinosaurs went extinct and that they had no solid evidence of it at the time. It's crazy how recent it is. New Zealand. Its indigenous population only arrived there about 800 years ago, despite Australia just across the Tasman having been inhabited for 75,000 plus years. History class in New Zealand is really boring. We learn the same history year after year because there isn't a lot of it. Machu Picchu, the Tower of London predates it by almost 400 years. I think the Incas, Aztecs, and Mayans in general are all more recent than most people realize. A lot of people also don't realize that Mayan people are still around too. Smartphones. I often hear people on Reddit talk about how recent 9/11 is and are shocked that there are people who are born after 9/11 and entering adulthood now, yet don't realize that 2001 was in the era before smartphones. A lot of time did pass. Grass. It's a relatively new plant. Grass happened after dinosaurs went extinct. Mr. Stegosaurus never nommed on grass's edit. I've loved reading the responses. Thanks, folks. It's given me some interesting information. For example, the precursor to grass looks like it popped up just before the extinction meteor bopped Earth right in the kisser, at around 66 Maya. Then, boom, extinction event, which kinda leveled the playing field, clearing lots of space and resulting in fewer consumers of plants, letting the pre-grass plants evolve more freely into what we recognize as grass. Microwaves. At least in the US I was born in '83 and can remember always having one. They weren't really a mainstream middle class appliance until the late 70s. There used to be microwave cookbooks so you could cook almost anything in a microwave. There were even accessories to cook a whole turkey. Just the thought of a microwave cooked turkey brings me nightmares. At-home blood glucose monitoring has only been possible since around 1980. 1908 through 1980, you had to make an appointment with your doctor, wearing whatever you want in college. Before the 1960s everyone are required to wear suits and ties and other formal gear. A lot of smaller private colleges have dress codes. Mine wasn't super strict but we were not allowed to wear sweatpants or shorts, nor any revealing or profane clothes. Stuff like jeans and a t-shirt was okay though. That and it depended how much the individual professor cared. Friend went to Oral Roberts University in the early 2000s. They had to wear a shirt and tie and guys had to be clean shaven or could grow a mustache, but no other facial hair allowed. From the old newsreels, it looks like everyone wore a suit before the 1960s. Even the homeless guys in the old Depression videos wear jackets and ties, having to show it at the US-Canada border. Prior to 9/11 they often wouldn't even ask to see a driver's license. Boxer briefs are fairly new to the scene, becoming popular in the 1990s. 24-hour news. CNN was the first 24-hour news station in 1980, and even then most people didn't have cable to watch it, so they only got TV news in the morning, noon, 5-6ish and after prime time, unless something big happened between then. I remember when TV channels used to sign off for the night. We're closer in time to T-Rex than T-Rex was to Stegosaurus. The modern interstate highway system in the US. Modern divided highways date to the 1970s. Before then, going cross-country involved a patchwork of country roads, many of which were just 2 lanes. I-10 wasn't finished until the 1990s, when the last stretch in Phoenix was completed. Before that, it diverted through city streets. Sports bras. They were only invented in the late 70s. You sure about that? I have pictures of my dad and his friends in one they went to all the time in the 60s edit. Just looked at the photo and thought I must have misread. Then I see you did not say sports bars. Carry on. That's the best misread I've seen in a while. I love it. The knowledge that other galaxies exist other than our own Milky Way in 1925. And the word galaxy comes from the Greek word for milk, since at the time it was named the Milky Way was the only one. To be specific, the myth goes that Zeus put Hercules by Hera while she was sleeping, allowing the baby to suckle on her breast knowing that Hera's milk has divine properties. Hera woke up, realized the baby was Hercules, and threw the baby away. This caused some of her breast milk to spill into the heavens, which, they believed, was the cause of what we now know to be the Milky Way in the sky. The knowledge that it's bad to drink when pregnant only became widely known in the 80s. 31 here. GPS. Hope to think I'm not that old but old enough to remember a shift in technology. I posted a reply below saying remember resetting your trip odometer and looking at the road nameplates while shuffling badly printed directions. MapQuest was the shit. I have fond memories of driving a $1,000 5-speed Jeep while trying to juggle talking on a green screen Nokia brick and shuffling through 6 pages of directions printed on an Epson running out of ink. It seems way more dangerous now than it did then. I recently saw a picture that said I told my kids I'm older than Google and they did not believe me because Google was invented in 1998. So I'm going to say Google. Antibiotics. People in the generation of your grandparents could have died from stubbing a toe. And in another generation when we have antibiotic immune bacteria, might experience the same threat. Edit. Thanks for all the comments. It seems that there might be more hope than I previously thought. First dude they tested penicillin on nearly died from scratching his hand on one of his rose bushes. Then he died the rest of the way because they ran out. Hallways weren't widely used until the 1800s. Rooms would just open into the next room. Yep, it's odd seeing an old house where you have to pass through a bedroom to get to another room. Just doesn't seem right. Your comment made me realize how strange this idea is to my modern sensibilities. I just realized that the old house I grew up in didn't have any hallways. It never dawned on me. Hey Bob, I've got this idea. Yeah, what if we had a room for getting to other rooms? What? You could have a room, sort of in the middle of the house, that just had doors to other rooms in it. Are you kidding me? What kind of entitled ass motherfucker would want a room that serves no purpose except to get to other rooms? Does too good for you, Ted? The theory of plate tectonics. It pretty much makes up the entire backbone of modern geology, yet it wasn't actually accepted until the 1960s. Alfred Wegener proposed his theory of continental drift in 1915 but couldn't explain the mechanism behind it, so his theory was dismissed. Over the next few decades, the evidence of crustal movement became undeniable and plate tectonics developed as a theory. It's just crazy to me that geologists were pretty much completely clueless until around 60 years ago. The theory is still on pretty shaky ground. To be honest, you can't deny that it was pretty earth-shattering when it was proposed, though. White LED lights, which were only made possible when Japanese scientists worked out how to make blue light-emitting LEDs in the early 1990s. So the blue LEDs that you now see everywhere from cars to PC rigs are also that new. Edit. Should mention Professors Isamu Akasaki, Hiroshi Amano and Shuji Nakamura won the 2014 Nobel Prize for their discovery. Sliced bread. Betty White is older than store-bought sliced bread. Holy shit, this blew up. Thanks for the awards. Paramedics. Before the formation of a paramedic program, medical emergencies were handled by police or by undertakers. One of the first programs was started to help a black community in Pittsburgh. Here is a 99 pi article and podcast https://99percentinvisible.org/episode/freedom-house-ambulance-service/ Not super new, but the match was invented after the lighter. So the answer to the question what did people use before matches is lighters. What hit me the other day? Germany. It was only reunified 30 years ago. Yep, I saw West Germany on my birth certificate last month and felt like some ancient crone. I'm old enough to remember black and white television still being commonplace, and remember when remote controls were brand new technology. Remote controls were around as long as TVs, really. I know because I was one as a kid. Pluto, the celestial body, wasn't truly discovered until 1930. Only 1 year later, Mickey Mouse's dog was renamed from Rover to Pluto, likely to capitalize on the hype around this new planet, but there are no sources to confirm this. Toilet paper as we know it, soft, fluffy, white. Toilet paper that was free of wood splinters didn't exist until the 1920s. One reason the Sears catalog became so popular, after you ordered everything you needed from it, you hung it by a string in the outhouse. Yeah, my family in Kentucky always talk about how much it sucked having to go outside to use the bathroom at night and how disappointed they were when the Sears catalog changed to glossy paper. Diamond rings being an engagement gesture only arose in the 1940s because diamonds were becoming less valuable and the powers that be needed to not let that happen. https:// Prisianamics.com/post/45768546804/diamonds-r-bullshit. Ciabatta bread goes all the way back to the early 1980s. https://en.m.wikipedia.org/wiki/ciabatta-Italy. Have I heard of that too? A while back. I went googling it again and apparently baguettes are from early 1900s. Crazy. I would have thought they'd be historical. Oh man. The early wheeled suitcases were awful. The casters were tiny, so they only worked on smooth hard flooring. And because it was a 4-wheel top heavy configuration, if you didn't pull the suitcase just right the case would topple over, slowing down everyone behind you, making you look like a complete idiot. I've heard that the modern configuration came about because Heathrow Airport in London is so dang massive that a guy finally had a "there's got to be a better way" moment and finally came up with something that wasn't a massive headache to drag around. Tomatoes are actually a New World crop, so when you associate Italy with pasta sauce, you're actually thinking of Italy. Post-Columbian exchange, mid-1500s, and actually, tomato sauce wasn't even integrated into Italian cuisine until the late 19th century, so go figure. Edit. Clarification on tomato sauce being used. In high school in the 1990s, learning about basics of biology, the discovery of the basis of DNA structure seemed like ancient history. The people they discovered it were still alive then. Italy wasn't a unified single country until 1871. Before that, it was a patchwork of small kingdoms and city-states with different local dialects and languages. As late as 1861, only 2.5% of Italians spoke what is now known as Standard Italian, which before then was the Florentine dialect of Tuscan. Democrats being blue and Republicans being red only dates back to around the year 2000. The colors used to alternate each election, but the extended discussion of red states and blue states during the month-long debacle in 2000 cemented it in people's minds. 401k retirement accounts didn't start until about 1980, aka we have yet to see an entire generation actually retire with a 401k. Edit. Wow, thanks for all the awards. Go out and vote y'all. This one I didn't know. So the first generation that started 401k investing is about to retire. That will no doubt make life interesting. A bunch of boomers and essentially pre-boomers have retired with 401ks plus pensions. They made bank. Women with credit cards and their own names. I think that was in the 1970s. My husband's dad died in 1975, and when my mother-in-law called a credit card company to have their Visa card changed to her name, they recommended that she leave it in her dead husband's name because if the company knew her husband was deceased, they would cancel her card. The customer service told her that the company wouldn't issue cards to widowed ladies with children because, given the choice between paying their credit card bill and feeding their children, they would feed their children. So, the name on her credit card was a dead man's name until she remarried 11 years later and closed the account. Yes, women are different in that way. For example, if a woman had to choose between saving a baby or catching a pop fly ball, she'll save the baby without even considering whether there are runners on base. The addition of "under God" in the US Pledge of Allegiance, 1954. Likewise in "God We Trust" as the national motto, 1956. The original motto was "E Pluribus Unum," no mention of anything religious at all. It's a shame. E Pluribus Unum, from many. 1. Reflects the diversity and inclusion of the American melting pot. One nation under God sounds like if you have another god or no god then fuck you.